Okay guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about the new drop pods and literally just giving you all the information I can about them, the size, how they go together, the impact on old versus new, and what I think about them in the final verdict. So I'm going to go through all that in today's video, so hopefully you guys are as informed as you can possibly be about whether or not you want to pre-order this set. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, the first thing that I want to address with the new Space Marine drop pods is why it is in a box of two. Surely us as consumers can decide whether or not we want to buy one or two at a time. Is this just weird packaging? I've never seen anything like this before, kind of like this. So it seemed and felt a little bit strange. Was it just a cash grab? And it turns out, no, that isn't exactly the situation. So here are the sprues that you get inside of the kit. And as you can see, it is three. There is only three sprues that make up two drop pods. So there is no way of separating these into drop pod 1 and drop pod 2. It's not like there's two of these and two, you know what I mean? So this is the parts on this sprue are used for both drop pods. Therefore, it is impossible to package them as a single one. So if you are planning on waiting for them to come out individually or something like that, that will never be the case. So yes, if you are looking for new drop pods, you have to bite the bullet and buy the box of two. So the detail on these is absolutely incredible. Like, I do love the big Scenic base. I love that it's smashed into the ground. I love that it's going to fit into the scenery a lot better. It's going to look like a kind of descended drop pod. The plastic used is very much similar to the scenery plastic. So the detail isn't as kind of crazy crisp and sharp as, you know, a normal tank with like a repulsor would have a nicer detail than this. Like the Aquila is not exactly mega detailed, but it's enough. It's all you really need to be. This just represents a point on the battlefield where 10 Space Marines are going to show up and fight from. So yeah, I'm excited to see what these things are like. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away, construct both drop pods, show you guys what they look like, compare them to the older drop pods, kind of the circumference and how much space they take up in the battlefield, and all that other good stuff, and then I'll come back to you then. Okay, first things first, assembly. Don't mind the bin on my hand. That was literally to remind me to take out the bin, so it'll disappear in the next frame. So the first thing that I noticed, and the reason I started recording to show you guys, was, oh my god, these things are easy to build. These two drop pods are a total of, what, 10, 12, 14, 16 parts. 16 parts for two full drop pods. Do you know how refreshing it is to get a model kit that has so few pieces? I set aside like 4-hour block to get these two things constructed, and they were built after an hour. It was very, very nice. Now, they are still scenery plastic, so we did take our time and we worked around getting rid of all of the extra bits of flash and working around getting rid of the mold lines. Now, on the large flat sections that I'm currently cleaning up and the kind of top bits, there wasn't a lot of mold lines. On the fins, of which there are 10 of them, there is definitely a big dirty mold line that wraps its way around the entire outside of the panel. And this is something that will be super noticeable after you paint it and weather it and stuff like that. So if you can take your time and remove the mold lines and flash around the 10 fins, it was definitely the slowest point of getting these models painted, was doing that. But I think it's definitely worth your time and attention to do that. So like I said, sharp knife, some patience, some files, some sandpaper, whatever you like to use to get rid of mold lines and flash, do that and repeat the process over and over again until 10 fins are done. Now, when it came to constructing them, it was so simple. Add some glue, push a fin on. Add some glue, push a fin on. Add some glue, push a fin on. Once you had 5 fins on, the whole thing gets glued to the base. You glue the extra little panel bit for the one door that is apparently in half. Why one door is in half? Probably a boxing issue or something, but yeah, it's incredible. So that's 1 fin, 2 fin. This is the 3rd fin. Of course, the 3rd fin is the one I'm having trouble with for some reason. Don't worry about that. 4th fin. And then, of course, after you've finished assembling the 5th fin, like I said, you just add some glue around the base of this thing and get it put together. Like, once again, I'm going to reiterate. It is a breath of fresh air to have a miniature kit which is so easy to assemble. If you turned around today and told me to build 10 old drop pods, one after the other production line, I would be hating myself. It would be an awful day's work. If you turn around and told me I have to build 10 new drop pods, no problem. I would be so happy. I'd skip away and get them done for you in a couple of hours and it would be great. So I have always often said I will take a reduction in quality by like 10-15% for fewer parts and easier to assemble miniatures, because the building models these days used to be one of my favorite things to do in the hobby, and now I cannot stand it. Okay, here it is all assembled minus that little extra door section and minus some extra rocky bits, which I will show you in just a moment. I did kind of leave all the footage in. I wanted to show you how quickly you assemble a drop pod. Like I said, this is 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 pieces. 8 pieces for a big tank model. Now, you get all these rocky bits. So what I did was I just cut them all out, cleaned them all up, and then I split the piles in half. And I just started gluing. And how it works is they all have like a slanted side that you can slide under the doors. There's no set place to put any single one of them. So you just add a little bit of glue along that slanty side, and then you slide it under until it makes contact, wait for it to dry, and then move on to the next bit. You move around the entire drop pod, making sure that there's some cool rocky outcrop bits around each door to make it, like I said, look like it has smashed into the ground and broken up a road, or saddled itself into the terrain or whatever. But having said that, I do believe all these parts are optional. There's detail underneath all of them. So if you decided you don't want all the extra rocky bits to paint, then don't glue them on, no problem. No harm, no foul. I, however, love the look of them crashing to the ground, so I've added them all in. Here is the finished constructed drop pod, the brand new one. I can't see really a drop in quality from this one to the old one, unless you flip it upside down. So I'm thoroughly pleased with the assembly side of it. Now, to compare it to the old drop pod. The old drop pod did look fantastic when the doors were all closed, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. They are exactly the same height, and all the fins and stuff line up exactly, so they haven't changed the dimensions of any of that whatsoever. They have, however, changed the dimensions of the doors a little bit. And for all you guys out there who are going to be playing tournaments or who are super strict on the rules, you're talking about guys deploying from door frames and stuff like that. I think they've very tactfully reduced the size of the doors in lengthwise. And I'm going to figure out what that kind of size difference is now. What I've done is I've got 2 sheets of paper. And what I'm going to do is very quickly trace around both sets of drop pods, all the doors, and then do some measuring and find out exactly how much we have lost on the length of our drop pod doors and how that will affect you guys in game terms for deployment and stuff like that. So here's the first starfish. This is the old drop pod. It's really funny seeing the outline of the new drop pod and seeing just how scenic it is compared to the old one. Obviously with all those kind of rocky bits and like the scenery, it's definitely not a starfish. Or else it's a starfish that really likes Ben and Jerry's, I'm not sure. For one, I'm going to be doing both of these new plastic drop pods and adding them into my Space Wolf army for some blood claw units. I think it's going to be really cool having those young bloods smash into the ground, charge out howling, and launch themselves at the enemy. I think that'd be particularly cool. Okay, so I got my beautiful ruler out. I measured from furthest point to furthest point. And I measured it out. For some reason, I did it in centimeters first, because that's the measurement that we use here in the hobby, so I quickly ignored that. And then did it in inches, as is true and proper. So an old drop pod from door to door is 9.5 inches. You can clearly see that the new drop pod is very much a different scale. So once again, we are going to measure that up. We can already see that it was 24 centimeters to 19 centimeters. So therefore, in inches, it's actually going to be 7.5. So we've lost 2 inches in diameter of the 2 different pods, which is quite a large drop in like footprint of a piece. So if you do want to have a lot more of them on the table, dropping in around enemy and stuff, you'll be able to fit a lot more of them between buildings or around objectives or around units and stuff like that. So maybe that's a positive, or maybe you like to use them for blocking. Maybe it's a negative. That's totally up to you. The old design, like I said, with the doors closed was great for things like transportation, obviously. It was great for making dioramas. It was very aesthetically pleasing. It's what we've seen in video games and stuff like that. So I do love that silhouette, and losing that silhouette is sad. Having said that, I much prefer the design of the new one. From constructing it to the look of it and how it's going to look on the tabletop with a bunch of Marines jumping at the back of it, I think it's definitely going to add a lot more of an aesthetic element to it. So I'm here for a big thumbs up for the new drop pods. Depending on price, when I make these videos, I don't know until the pre-order goes live how much it's actually going to cost, so I have no idea. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, make sure to do all those good things. Give the video a like, make sure you drop a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. If you want to help even further, there's links to things like Patreon and becoming a channel membership, all linked down below, plus affiliate links to like Element Games and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, check those all out below. Thank you so much for sticking around at the end. I'll see you in the next one.